All right. Yeah, this is kind of a request to myself because he brought this up in the yeah Larry King interview, but also I need to apologise to Tipper Gore. I've been calling her he. It's a her, and it's Al Gore that was to do with Life Earth. Yeah, Live Earth. Yeah, so it was her husband. I was kind of half there. I just mixed up the husband and wife is all. But with a name like Tipper, you could be anything. But yeah, Frank Zappa debates Tipper Gore, 1987. Let's go.
Zappa. And with Tipper Gore, author of the book Raising PG Kids in an X-Rated Society.
This is ABC News Nightline, brought to you by AT&T.
Our best-known group was the Mothers of Invention, but in addition to his musical career, Frank Zappa has recently been an outspoken critic of a movement to require content ratings for LPs. Mr. Zappa, who is also entering the home video market with his own distribution company, is in our Los Angeles bureau this evening. And joining us in our Washington bureau is Tipper Gore. Along with her husband, Senator Albert Gore of Tennessee, she sat down to look at some of the new horror video movies recently and did not like what she saw. Frank Zappa, let me start with you. You're a father. Do you mind if your kids watch that stuff?
As a matter of fact, my two older children, Moon and Dweezil, have both seen Faces of Death. They rented it at a video store and brought it home. The net result was that after watching this video, they were so sickened by it, they both became vegetarians.
Well, all right, amusing, but obviously there can be, or do you feel there can be, negative effects to watching something like that?
Why do you say obviously? I don't think that that's been proven by anyone.
Tipper Gore?
Well, there have been a number of studies researching the viewing of television violence and subsequent aggressive behavior, particularly among children. Professor Neil Malmuth at the University of California, Edward Donnerstein, have researched sexual violence, sexual pornography, and they have concluded that it desensitizes attitudes towards rape victims, towards the act of rape itself among college students who repeatedly see scenes of rape. The PTA conducted hearings in 1978 in which they detailed cases of more aggressive behavior among children that they felt the children were imitating violence that they saw on television. The American Psychological Association had a report out last September in which they say that viewing violence on television is directly linked to more aggressive behavior among children. So there really are a lot of studies that talk about the effects of viewing violence.
All right, Frank Zappa, a long list of studies, but Tipper used an interesting word.
But no conclusion.
She said desensitizes. When you see a young girl, as you saw a moment ago, who was standing, I guess, in a video rental store saying, I like the blood, what's your reaction to that?
Well, I think that the issue here may be desensitization rather than the content, because I think that there are a lot of things that people can see on television or in the movies that desensitize you. But the most desensitizing thing in the United States today is the Iran-Contra hearings, because that is desensitizing us to honesty, to the Constitution itself. That is an issue. This is nothing.
All right, Tipper, let me come back to Tipper Gore. Let me come back to that question of the studies and what it can do. What are you really going to advocate as a solution? Are you simply going to talk about, as the woman did in the piece, talk about a different rating for these movies?
Well, that's not necessarily a bad idea to discuss it, because if these home video cassettes or the rental cassettes do not go through the MPAA system, they're not rated, and yet they're in the stores available to kids of any age. So I would like to see an industry initiative where the industry takes responsibility for providing consumer information to parents, to others who are concerned about sadistic, sexual, savage scenes in some of these movies, and the availability, the easy accessibility to young children. And I think the answer to that is consumer information.
But doesn't a rating just make them more enticing?
Well, they're already enticing. I mean, your show is about the immense appetite that's already been created among teenagers and even younger kids for these kind of movies. I think the question is parental awareness. I think the key is most parents are not aware that the contents are as graphic as they...
Yeah, but that's what she just said there, it defeats her whole thing. It's the parent. Don't let your kid. I'm being funny. This is in '87, where you can 100% stop your kid seeing things. Do you know what I mean? Now it's a bit different. Now it is like you can see anything, the most horrendous things, literally on your phone. But yeah, watch what your kids are doing.
It's their foremost responsibility, but they need guidance from the industry. Therefore, I think voluntary ratings are very appropriate. And
Didn't you love that? No, we need to guide the parents. The industry, that evil word, the industry needs to guide the parents, to guide the children, to control the world. Basically, because if you do that and if you can control the parents and control how they raise a kid, you're controlling everything. Like you're controlling, get out of people's lives.
full consumer tool.
Frank Zappa, you're about to go into the movie distribution business, I gather. If somebody brought it to you, would you distribute something called Splatter University?
No.
Why not?
Good for you.
Why not?
Well, it's not the style of stuff that is going to be on my label. I've started a label called Honker Home Video, which is providing state-of-the-art weirdness, but not that type of material.
Well, if you wouldn't distribute it, then you do have some objection to it.
It's just not, it's not my idea of entertainment. And the thing that is on my label, the material that is on my label, is going to be things that would entertain me.
All right. Well, there's no question that these movies have become more popular. There are more of them. A recent phenomenon. We'll talk about why they've become such a phenomenon. When we come back, we'll be joined by one of America's best-known film critics, Gene Siskel of the Chicago.
But then why was, do you know what I mean? People have throughout the whole of history have been obsessed. Everyone knows that you slow down past the car crash because people watch the Grand Prix mainly because they're waiting to see one of the cars crash. Like people, and if like it's no different to the Roman Colosseum. Do you know what I mean? It's something in humans, but then it's not just something in humans. It's a part of life too. Do you know what I mean? Violence is a part of life, and there's not a thing on. Probably humans are the only thing that, and dogs and cats, because they live with humans, are the only things that die peacefully of old age. Sometimes. Most living things, in fact, every other living thing does not typically end that way. They're either eaten, ripped apart. Do you know what I mean?
Tribune. Television program Siskel and Ebert at the Movies. Gene Siskel, you're nice to join us this evening. We've gotten through a lot of years without these kinds of movies, and maybe I sort of suffer from terminal age at this point, but I mean, when I think back at Friday Fright Night at the movies, there was a vampire with a big black cape and whatever. But these things have obviously progressed a long way. Why do you think they have?
Well, it has progressed a long way. I think it takes a bigger shock to, you know, once you've gotten used to a level of shock, even if it's electrical shock, it takes a bigger shock to get a jolt out of you mechanically in the body. And I think that's the way it works almost in films.
To follow that through to its conclusion, though, it gets worse and worse and worse and worse.
Yes, you know, when you're showing I Spit on Your Grave, you know, I sort of have to keep up to date with this stuff. That's the bad old days. Now it's Faces of Death.
But again, that's not true. It's not true. Because if you watch films now, like for example, films like Saw or Hostel, really they're garbage. And there's people that like that type of thing and they will watch it, but it's like it's the same with CGI. No one really cares about CGI. No one cares if you can blow up the earth now in a film and make it look real because we know you got CGI. Do you know what I mean? What people now have gone back to instead of that kind of, whoa, something's exploded and it looked really real. People want stories. Look at things like podcasts, how podcasts have become long flowing conversations that go anywhere is like Joe Rogan's podcast is more viewed than anything ever at the moment. Do you know what I mean? And it's 3 hours of people talking. That conversation can go anywhere. It could be good, it can be bad, but people love that. So it shows you that it's not true. That it's the more shocking something. Like if you're shocked, because after a while the shock becomes like, do you know what I mean? Like, and you do want. Look at Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones isn't. There's shocking things in it, but a lot of it is talking and story development, and it's a complicated story with little hints here and there, and it's that catches the human mind more than just the fact that, I mean, the shocking things are great too. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, I don't agree with that because, like I say, I'd rather now watch a film of like which is more like dialogue. Dialogue is interesting.
To say when I was asked what was the worst film of all time that I'd seen, it was I Spit on Your Grave. Now it's Faces of Death, and they've come out now with Faces of Death 3, which is a high renter. I just called a couple of video stores in Chicago half an hour ago before we went on the air, and Faces of Death 3 is renting quite well. So it is getting rougher. And those films, by the way, are not faked, as the magazine publisher, the young magazine publisher was talking about. Those are showing mutilations, accident footage that wouldn't go on broadcast network, showing morgue shots, killing, some of it tricked up, I might add, you know, where there's a second camera there where you wouldn't think there would be a camera, showing a camera photographing a mutilation by alligator or bear or somebody falling from a building. So this stuff is getting rougher. There's no question about it.
Tipper Gore, the market is there. If the market is there, if people want to see them, there's really no way that you can stop that, is there?
Well, I don't advocate stopping that. What I'm concerned about are the number of rentals that are unrated and accessible to kids of any age, preteens and young adolescents, and I think parents need to make a judgment and intercede.
Fair comment. I didn't mean to say that you wanted to stop it. I'm just saying that when you talk about a rating or some sort of different warning for parents or whatever, basically, if the market is there, people are going to go and see them, whether you rate them, whether you put any kind of restriction on them, they're going to see them.
That's right. So the real key is education. I mean, this whole discussion should be framed in the argument of the real violence that's in our society. The fact is the youth homicide rate has gone up 232% since 1950. Last year in Detroit alone, one child a day, one kid under 21 a day was shot. I mean, we have a problem with violence in our country. We ought to debate it publicly. We ought to say, is it healthy to glorify violence the way that we do, to the degree, the graphic degree that we do? And is it healthy that women are always shown as the victim?
Frank Zappa, let me raise...
Again, though, yeah, that, but by saying that that is solely because of these films is a ridiculous thing to say. You can't just say that teen murders is up and it's because of them films where you've got no evidence of that. And the other thing is that if you go on everywhere, keep talking about it, then you're actually promoting it. Do you know what I mean? It's
question, because a number of people do. One of the critics in the piece did, that it is a terrible problem for women, these movies, because they basically show an awful lot of aggression against women.
Well, one of the reasons they do show aggression against women is because there is a market for films that show aggression against women.
Well, all right, Tipper, go ahead.
I think that is a matter of the marketplace right there, determining what it wants to see. Obviously, there is a sentiment in the American public that demands to see women being treated in this way.
Well,
you're talking about a mental health problem, not a problem of labeling an object.
Well, it's a cheap industrial ingredient. I call it cultural strip mining. You're selling the bottom line of sex and violence to teens and preteens, and the companies ought to be responsible. And it's like junk food. They're crowding out other more positive kinds of films that they could produce.
Gene, aren't we down to the ultimate question that you always get into in this instance? I mean, it becomes a free speech question, and Frank Zappa has a point. If there is a market there for that kind of movie.
So yeah, well, I think the key concept here is getting the information out. I think that the broadcast tonight, the ultimate good of it is simply to indicate to parents that it is not, you know, you showed Friday the 13th. That isn't in the league that we're talking about here, that people are so concerned about. That's almost benign compared to some of the brutal material. Frank Zappa said a very interesting phrase. He said, "It's not my idea of entertainment." Well, I think that the most damage that's done is not, let's say, a one-for-one act. I don't expect people to start going out and having toolbox murders after they see toolbox murders. But there is a confusion that I think does come up in the mind, and that is this, that in the name of entertainment, you watch a toolbox murder. In other words, it's labeled as fun, as a good time. And even Frank Zappa admits it's not his cup of entertainment. And I think from a cultural leader like Frank Zappa to say it's not his kind of entertainment is great to go across the national airwaves. It's not my cup of entertainment either.
But do you need to educate people on movies called Blood-Sucking Freaks? I mean, you see that title. It seems to me it's fairly self-evident what it is.
I talked to 2 store owners tonight, and they told me an amazing story, which is that they note ages and note on cards not to rent. Parents can call in and say, "Don't rent to my kids." They have had cases where parents have come back and said, "You're not renting to my kids. I want them to see this." And I asked the young man that I talked to, the second guy, and I said, "Do you think he really knows, these parents know what's in the film?" And he said, "No, they think it's Friday the 13th. They think it's the old vampire stuff. They're really not aware how rough the material is."
All right, let me come back to that question of the responsibility of the video store owners, and we'll do that when we continue our discussion in a moment.
Good look at it.
Now, Frank Zappa, Tipper Gore, and Gene Siskel. Gene, in getting ready for this...
Do you know, but like, do you know what I mean? How many kids watch Looney Tunes? And how many kids have dropped an handful off of a cliff and squashed someone? Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah. You're underestimating the intelligence of people. That just because, now there may be certain people that do see things, but like, certain people are going to be triggered to do horrible things from anything. It can be anything that sets them off. You can't, yeah. Although I agree with Frank Zappa, it's not my thing. I hate it when people send me, if someone sends me like a couple of disgusting, like, one of them I opened it and it was like someone being hit full speed with a moped and it literally cut the person in half. And I watched it, I was thinking, why would you send me, like, and if I see if I see another video like that, I just ain't answering the message anymore. Do you know what I mean? I ain't opening it and I ain't looking at it. Yeah. But that's like my choice, and there's some people, like you said, that want to watch it, and if you want to watch it, it's, yeah, you can, but I
Today
ain't.
we talked to some people who own chains of the video rental stores. Some of them said that they do make an effort to restrict the age of kids and what movies they take out. Is there any signs that they're doing that?
Yes, Blockbuster Video, which is a large chain which has monster stores with like 13,000 titles, and it's a national company, I think run out of Texas. They have a coding system in the computer where a parent can call in and say, "Do not rent R-rated films to my child." I mean, milder stuff than we're talking about today. And a light will go off and they will not be able to rent to kids. So there's a chain.
Are they the exception or the rule?
Probably the exception, although the trend is toward bigger and bigger stores. There are plenty of mom and pop stores around, though, that are renting casually, and as I talked to tonight, some that are trying to rent responsibly.
Frank Zappa, your reaction to that? Stores limiting what kids can take, and the idea, perhaps, of putting a rating on a movie that would guide the store as to what they do.
Well, I think that the films that are in release on video cassette that are actual films that were in release in theaters already are rated. And that rating system itself has been pretty much of a dismal failure. The net result of it is to alert people that, you know, you want to see the R because that's where the action is. I think that restricting any kind of access for any age group, for any kind of material in home video, which is the last frontier of free information in a pictorial sense, that where you can choose it, bring it into your home, and it doesn't have to be as bland as television. There shouldn't be anything to interfere with that.
Tipper Gore, in the last 30 seconds, do you see anything which points to an abatement of this phenomenon?
No, I don't. I think it's going to get worse. And I think what we have in the marketplace is something akin to video anarchy. And I think that what the consumer would really be best served by would be a voluntary system initiated within the industry to provide consistent information so people could make individual choices in the marketplace.
All right, Tipper Gore, Frank Zappa, Gene Siskel, thank you for being with us tonight. Nice of you all to join us.
Hello. Do you know it's never too early or too late to enjoy the music?
Do you know, no, really, this is why Hollywood's failing now. Do you know what I mean? Hollywood's failing. Their movies flop, all of them. Unless it's a Clint Eastwood film or like, do you know what I mean? And the reason they're all flopping is because I think the only blockbuster R-rated film was the Jesus film Mel Gibson did. R-rated films they're not number one movies, so now no one makes them. And every film, you can't watch a film without seeing that woke ideology. Like, how many people's friend groups, like, it's like you look at the friend groups in films now and you think you've got to be racist. Because it's like you've got two black guys, two Asians. It's like, do you ever get like a group nowadays of friends where there's like, say, four black people, four white people, and they go, to be honest, yeah, this is a little bit too like black and white. Can you two get out of our friendship group? And then we need a couple of Asians. Do you know, like, who has groups of friends where there's literally an equal amount of each race in it? It's just not real, and you can see the ideology being pushed, and you can see like, and no one wants to see it because it's just not real. Like, you can't lose yourself in a film because you just see it and you go, oh, it's this thing where now you feel like I'm being lectured more than I'm watching a film, and that's killing Hollywood. But also the fact that they just don't make adult films. Like I said, people want to see like Goodfellas. Do you know what I mean? Like, people want to watch that. Like, I'd rather watch, like I say, God. When was the last time a film was made like them films? All the films I watch are from like, yeah, years ago. Even kids' films from years ago. When I was younger, we watched the 80s movies like Monster Squad and Goonies and like Lost Boys and great kids' films. Yeah. But yeah, it's crazy and it's funny that it's took this long for Hollywood to completely fail. Like I say, I see a fact like YouTubers get more views than um Hollywood films now. And again, it goes back to what I was saying. The reason people like YouTubers is because you get to see someone for real. Like, you're not it's not someone playing a character, or no, some people are, but you're seeing like real, like, and people want authentic things, especially now, like I say, with CGI, it's kind of made like them kind of really gory films just, do you know what I mean, stupid. And yeah, the invention of the internet just really made all of this conversation kind of pointless because you can't censor that. Yeah, it's and you can get the craziest shit. People send me things, and like I said, I just don't watch it. But that's like, I don't understand why that's the thing. Right? If you don't like something, just don't watch it. But it's funny that like Zappa said, movies are rated. They are rated. And now that, but if you do watch films now, there is all. When's the last time really you saw a good adult film? Like, and I don't mean an adult film like it's got loads of sex in it and death or like every 2 seconds. Do you know what I mean? But I mean like a film actually made for adults, not with a child's twist to it. And they do it because they don't want that 18 rating because then they know that their movies won't do as good. But I don't know. Yeah, they should have listened to Zappa back then. But yeah, that's the reactions.